Welcome everyone to the Electrical Culture of Safety Livewire program, where we delve into all the complexities of creating a culture of safety within the electric utility industry. In each episode, we feature interviews with subject matter experts, industry leaders, safety professionals, and field personnel from across the industry, where we discuss ways to develop a collective reflection of the perception, attitudes, and shared experiences of the safety culture within our industry. Welcome to ECOS Livewire.
Well, good day, everybody, and Electric Culture of Safety. We're about to hear from Mr. Mack Turner. He's a great guy, a great friend. I've got to know him. I've been blessed to know him for several years now. And he's very unique, and looking forward to hearing his live wire story. So, Mr. Jeremy, let's bring our bud on.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess it is.
It is, Mac. How you doing, man?
Hey, you know, if I was eating better, it'd be a crime.
You're looking pretty good, man. You're looking like you've been working out. And you got some build going on there, man.
Huh? Just working out, hauling through the airport. That's about as much as I do anymore.
Yeah. No, I know. So, yeah, man, Mac, I appreciate you coming on board and going to share your live wire story to the folks with Electric Culture of Safety. And, man, you're a huge part. You, ISPC, T&D training, PowerSkills, T&D training, PowerSkills. You all are a huge part, and the push really has come from you personally, and as far as partnering up and getting ISPC involved, Institute for Safety, Powerline Construction, getting your folks involved. So really appreciate your contribution to our nationwide line team. Really do.
Oh, glad to be a part of it. We're honored.
It's amazing. So Matt, you're a young man back in the day, not that long ago, and you started having some interest in the industry. Tell us how this came about. Tell us how you entered into this most excellent industry.
Well, to break it down real simply, I needed a job one day, but there's a little bit more to that story. But I grew up on a farm and a ranch in south central Utah up in the mountains, and went to school to be a farmer and a rancher. And back then, it was back in the late 70s, early 80s, and interest rates were high, and it just wasn't cutting it as far as me starting a family and starting to provide for them, and what I could make with interest rates and stuff as a farmer and a rancher just wasn't much. So I answered an ad one day to become a part-time person. So I was hired with a utility for the summer, and my job was to dig pole holes. And back then we didn't have a digger derrick. We had one, but it was mounted on a 32 GI, and it was always a long ways away. So I got to learn how to spoon out post holes or holes for poles. And I grew up digging post holes, so it wasn't really new to me, but a little deeper, a little bigger around. But that's what I did for the summer, and then I got laid off. About February, they came calling and wanted me to work full-time for them. So I agreed and went to work full-time for them, progressed through, as we all do, from going from a grunt to at least hopefully knowing what we're doing. Changed companies, started doing construction work that paid more money for me and the kids, I guess. And so it was good. Got a lot of varied experience there, but it had some drawbacks as well. Then come up through the industry and went through 2 or 3 employers, and then kind of ended up where I am with ISPC. Right now, I'm currently the executive director for ISPC and associated with T&D PowerSkills and Safety Management International as well. But it's been a wonderful road. The industry's treated me very well. I've been able to do things and that I would have never gotten to do had I stayed in what I thought was going to be my life's work. I stayed a small time country kid from the middle of nowhere, Utah, and not got to meet a lot of people that I've gotten to meet, but have a lot of experiences that I've had. I've been very blessed. I have no complaints at all.
Yeah, man, you shared with me probably at least 100 pictures, probably more. I'm being extremely conservative of your place there in Utah, your travels, your four-wheeling tours that you do, 1 or 2 a year, including the cooking and all the things you do with the Dutch ovens. And man, the scenery, some of your pictures are so breathtaking of your territory that you actually reside in up there, and you have your place up there, that they don't even look real. They don't look real, Mac. It's just so beautiful.
Well, I was very fortunate to be born and raised into an area that used to be very, very rural. It's still quite rural, but the tourists have found it. But when I was raised there, we knew everybody in the whole county. We knew what vehicle they drove. We knew what their dog's name was. It was very remote and a kind of a closed culture. But nowadays, the tourists have found the country, and so especially in the warmer months, we have a overabundance of tourists, but there's some beautiful country from high mountain valleys to down into the desert country, clear down into Lake Powell, and a lot of varied geographical situations. So it's I couldn't have picked a better place on this earth to be from or to live.
Yeah, yeah. And you grew up, you and your siblings in a small home. You showed me a picture.
Yeah. We grew up without a lot of services growing up. It's not like we knew what all of the conveniences was. It was rural enough and just backward enough that, we had outhouses and gas lamps and gas refrigerators and all of that stuff. Didn't have a TV in the house until after I came back. During college, my folks bought one, but we had to go down to a neighbor to watch TV growing up, and about the only shows that I knew that was on TV was Lawrence Welk and Red Skelton, Ed Sullivan.
Yeah,
that was the knowledge of TV growing up for me. So
wow. Well, at least you were watching things that were clean back then.
Yeah, but very blessed. My parents did a good job raising me, or at least I hope they did. But I'm very blessed to have been in that country and still be there. It's I've been around the world quite a bit in my career, but there's nothing quite like what's there.
Yeah. Well, if any of you folks have a chance to meet Mac, man, you gotta talk to him. He's just so interesting, his stories, and he may have on his person a Ziploc baggie with some jerky. He makes the best smoked house jerky that you've ever had. You're like a champion, Mac. You've got to have won ribbons and medals and.
No. It's just what I grew up with. We grew up smoking meat, so I smoke all kinds of meats, and I make a lot of jerky. And there's some in my backpack over here. I kind of take it with me everywhere. It's just I'd rather eat that than a candy bar. So
oh man,
it's kind of what I have. But the world's not the way that it was. Where we grew up. If we didn't grow it or raise it, we didn't eat it. And so I grew up learning how to grow a garden and how to preserve a garden and how to preserve meats as well, jerky and ham and bacon and everything. And so it's just a different world, but it's one that I've carried with me. I've been fortunate to be able to do that and wouldn't change it.
That's awesome. So Mac, when you went ahead and signed up with ISPC. When did that career all start? How did that come about as far as the integration in ISPC?
Well, I come up through first the co-op world and then to construction and traveled the country in construction. Then I went to work for an investor-owned utility. I got tired of being on the road all the time, went to work for them for a number of years. And along the line, I really came out of working with the tools all the time and had a great interest in safety and training, and so started doing a lot of safety and training clear back in the 80s, and traveled through, got involved with various groups, the National Safety Council and such in the 90s, and really liked the safety and the training aspect of it. I like the training aspect more than the safety, but one of the things that I decided when I first got into the utility world was that I was scared to death of the unseen killer, that snake that was out to get you, and called electricity. And I decided back then that if I did not take care of myself, there wasn't anybody else that was going to. And so I've always, I guess I've gotten censured and written up for refusing to do things over time because I just did not feel safe and comfortable with it, and so I just kind of fell into it just because of my thought process into safety and training. So the bulk of my career I've been involved in safety and training, and once I got up in the tools all the time, I kind of came out of the tools and was just called on trouble for a time and when they needed extra hands, but I kind of decided to go into safety and training. So I've been involved in that for a number of years. First started working with the National Safety Council Utilities Division here a long time ago, and then I met a very fine lady with all of that by the name of Carla House, and when she decided to start IP, she kind of brought a couple of us with her and into the Incident Prevention Association. So I worked a full-time job and volunteered with that. And then when the National Safety Council sunsetted their CUSA program, Carla and a few of us decided we'd make our own. So we started the CUSP program. And so that's just been kind of a natural progression with me, where I was working with them on the side, the Safety Council and the Incident Prevention and the utility business media a lot. And then I decided to leave the utility and, excuse me, and go to work in full-time in safety and training. And ended up here at ISPC, hired on as a senior consultant, and I guess within about a year and a half, well, less than that, probably about a year and 2 months, I was named executive director, and I've been, I guess, getting a lot of people involved with safety and training. It's something that I certainly believe in, something that I think is very, very important in the utility industry, and trying to break perceptions out there, both from a safety standpoint and training standpoint, to see if we can save more lives. And so to me, it's a mission. It's something that it's part of me. It's part of the way that I think, but it's also, I can't think of a nobler thing to do for a living.
No, that's beautiful. So just so everybody knows, our audience knows, that they can go to electriccultureofsafety.com, and the recordings that ISPC, you, Jimmy Vaughn, have shared with, and some other folks that have worked with you, Mark Forrester and such that have worked with you. These are all available. Just click on the resource, go to the resource page, and click on the full length ECAUS Linemen Safety National Webinars, and you can find them. And they're all awesome. And Mac, one of the first ones that you shared, I will never forget it. It's SALT, Save a Life Today. And basically, you're one of the few people that don't look forward to, and we've talked about this together, you don't look forward necessarily to retirement because you want to keep giving back and caring for the people. And your Linemen Safety National Webinar, Save a Life today, Saul, was so important for folks to really hear. And like you said, can you look in at the end of the day? Can you look in the mirror and say to yourself, "Did I save a life today?" And man, that's like, wow. That's what we're here for. We're not for us. We're for each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've always believed, like I said earlier, that if I was not going to get hurt on the job, it was up to me to make sure that I didn't get hurt. And so, we hear the slogan, I'm my brother's keeper and all of those things, but really it comes down to a personal thing for me. I get up in the morning and one of the things I do is I look myself in the mirror and I reaffirm that, the most important thing I can do today is save a life. And I'm going to start with my own. And then I'm going to go with those that are around me and anybody else that I come in contact with. And I'm not bashful. I've gotten in almost fist fights and I've been accused of a lot of things, but I'm just not going to allow somebody to do unsafe behavior. If I can influence them for the better, that's the way I want to be in, whether it's in the industry at work or during, home hours or whatever. It's just, life is just so important. So not only do I look myself in the morning, in the mirror in the morning, but at night, I do ask myself each and every night, and I have done for many years, and I look myself straight in the eye and I verbally tell myself or ask myself, Mac, have you saved a life today? Have you done what you've set out to do? Have you done the most important thing? And most days I can say that I've done a decent job. But there's some days that I go and I think back over my day and I think, man, you failed, and what have I got to do to be better? Because we can't just keep failing at that. And if more of us had that attitude that our safety was up to us, instead of relying on the OSHA policies or whatever, our mindset is, there'd be a lot less hurting and a lot less fatalities in our industry and every industry.
Yeah, what you bring up a real serious take to heart point is, the regulations and the training and the rules and all these best work practices and everything, and the methods. They tell us about the what, and what you're just describing to us is the heart and soul of the how and the why. That's what you're discussing.
Yeah. Well, another couple of things that I'm very passionate about is I believe that us as human beings and as workers, we have some things that we deserve. There's some things that we deserve out of life. So I don't believe that whether it's at home or at work, that we can be assigned a task or that we can do a task without having proper training. And, and that's kind of a hard concept for people to understand. But, we deserve to be trained on what we're expected to do. Now, as a kid, I can remember my dad first teaching me to milk a cow, and I wasn't big enough, and we didn't have milking machines. We did it by hand. But he set me out by the cow, and he stopped the cow, got it, put the hobbles on the hind legs for me because I was too little for that, set the bucket underneath. And then he showed me how to get milk from the cow. But I was still small enough that I couldn't pick up the bucket once I got it full of milk. It was too heavy for me, so I'd have to call for my dad or my grandpa to come and get the pail of milk. But I can remember that lesson of how to milk that cow and do it safely. Or another lesson I can remember sitting on the front porch, my grandpa handing me a pocket knife, an old one of his that I still have today. I have that original pocket knife and showed me how to use a pocket knife without cutting myself. And so we deserve to be trained before we should be expected to do anything. But another thing and I think everybody could agree on that. But here's the kicker that we don't get agreement on. We deserve as human beings to be held accountable for our actions. We're adults. Once we're trained, and it doesn't matter if I got trained to use a pocket knife as a little kid, and I've cut myself once or twice, but I haven't ever cut myself very bad. I've tried to use a pocket knife the way that it was meant and use it safely. And we can get through each and every day as long as we hold ourselves accountable. Get the training that we need. We hold ourselves accountable. Safety is going to take care of itself. We're going to be able to go home and do the things that we want after work and with our families and do them safely those times as well. We've just got to hold ourselves accountable. That's where accountability starts, is right with ourselves. And if we're not willing to hold ourselves accountable, that's when we have trouble when others try to hold us accountable.
That's true, man. Amen. So give us a little description of ISPC as far as your services. They're quite an array of different services that you all offer, and I have personally witnessed some of your services firsthand and been very thankful for that. But give us some idea of the services you all provide.
Okay, ISPC is the Institute for Safety in Powerline Construction. We're a not-for-profit company. We are closely associated with and are actually in the same building with two other companies, which is T&D PowerSkills and Safety Management International. T&D PowerSkills is just curriculums, apprenticeship curriculums, continuing education curriculums. It's skills-based craft curriculums for the utility industry. ISPC, we serve as subject matter experts for those curriculums, but we also come out on site, and that's where I am now. I'm on site this morning. I did some bucket truck rescue this morning training for a bunch of guys, some of them who had never been in a bucket before. So it's kind of interesting. But we go on site and we will teach craft, anything craft. So if you need to know about transformers, we can teach you how to do transformers. You need to know how to climb a pole, we can do that. If you need to know how to pull wire, we can do that. But we also teach safety. Safety is a part of it, and safety is regular classes. I just taught one earlier this week on arc flash and in our industry. And so we'll do craft classes, we'll do safety classes, we'll do leadership development classes. We do all that on site. We specialize in customizing it to your work methods and your way of doing things. We don't want to tell them how to do it if it's against their work methods, because they're held accountable for their work methods. We want to make sure that the tools that we use is the tools that they have on site. That's why we come on site instead of having open enrollment. If you have a certain type of a glove or a meter or something this morning, and then I show you something else during training, it's really not going to do you any good. So we want to come on site and do that training with you on site using your tools, your equipment, your work methods. And bring, people from, like this morning, I believe I had 4 people in my class that this morning was the first time they'd seen a bucket truck. So I had to start out and teaching them how to even operate, what the controls was and how to operate it, let alone the bucket truck rescue part of it. But I really believe we will absorb the training. Us humans will absorb the training better if it applies to us. So that's why we special on site. We also get into writing work methods and safety policy for people. And then unfortunately, we get into litigation, and that's kind of the sad part of our industry, is the litigation when it happens. And we're subject matter experts, expert witnesses for that. We also do a lot of writing for various publications and involved in a lot of committees, ASTM, IEEE committees, stuff like that. So kind of an overview of what all we do.
Yeah. So I know there was a time when Mr. Jimmy Vaughn, who works with you all, he was able to share with me a work methods for OPGW for utility in the Midwest. And man, the diagrams, the images, some of the photos that were included in the work methods, the descriptions, all the details was just so easy to see in your head and understand. I mean, it was really a work of art. I really appreciated you all able to share that with me, and what you all provide as far as your professionalism and ease of understanding for the end user.
Well, and we try. Most of the people that I work with have been in the industry a very long time. Either have retired and want to get back into it and give back to it, or nearing retirement and decide to come to work for us for a while and finish out their career with us. You know, the knowledge that we gain through just working every day is very, very important. And so we try to have people available that's had a lot of time in the tools and in the field, doing the actual work, as well as, you know, being a subject matter expert in it.
Yeah. That's so we'll definitely include your contact information, Mac, at the end. Jeremy will add that in. But it's what's interesting, and most folks don't know this, but 4 years ago and 3 weeks, we were at an IP conference in Dallas, Texas, and I had this strange idea in my head about ECOS, electric culture of safety. And there were obviously at the time, 4 years and 3 months ago, there was no partnership logos or anything or any support at all. And I was with Ryan Beer, my nephew Ryan Beer, and I told Ryan, I whispered it to him. You guys were sitting at a table with Alan Hare with Centerpoint Energy, some other folks, and Jimmy Vaughn was with you. And I whispered it into Ryan's ear because he knew my idea. And I said, Ryan, if we get to sit with those folks right there, if something happens, I said, it's going to be a miracle, and it's going to be fate and destiny. And all of a sudden, Alan Hare came up to me and said, hey, Brent, you and Ryan, you guys need to sit over here by us. And I'm like freaking out because I just got done telling Ryan that we need to sit with those guys. So that's when I was able to share my idea. And, you know, back, 4 years ago, I've been only in the industry for 8 years? 8 years doing training around the country and stuff. And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, these guys have been in this for 40 plus years back then, 50 plus years, and they're not going to listen to me and my idea. And all of a sudden I gave you the idea, and I kid you not, Mac, you remember this time.
I do.
You and Jimmy Vaughn basically agreed to partner up with the idea of these Linemen National Webinars, Safety National Webinars, on the spot. And I'm like freaking out. And man, you guys, ever since then, I mean, we had over 15,000 partners, and I just stopped counting. I don't even count no more because it really doesn't matter, because it's established and folks are participating and being blessed. Their crews are getting all the shares that you guys are doing. You guys, ISPC and T&D and all you folks, you guys share probably about close to 10%, 12% of the total. No, probably close to 20, man, every year are you guys. And you guys are just participating and contributing so greatly. But it just shows your line, what I call a line legacy, what you and Jimmy are still doing today. Jimmy just reached out to me and Ryan just the other day himself, at wanting to get together for some more talks and training and stuff. So anyways, you guys are on it, man. You guys are on it.
Well, you know, ECOS, when you first approached us with it, we had been, and I don't think I've ever told you this, internally we'd been kind of kicking around something, and we just sometimes you get too busy that the ideas that you might have we can't do because we're busy doing other things. And you kind of hit us up. We'd been talking internally about it, and boy, when you said that, I thought, okay, well, this is the way for us to get going, and so that we don't have to kind of kick this off ourselves. And I thank you very much. I thank you for the invitation, number one, but thank you for continuing to support the industry and what beer meters and what you personally, Brent, do. I don't know very many people that would have tackled the ECOS thing the way that you have, and you've made a great success out of it. I'm, you put, what we'd been thinking about, just toying with it. We hadn't really had a lot of discussion, but we'd thinking, well, we need to do something. And boy, all of a sudden, here's Brent, and he's got the idea, he's got the method, he's got everything that we need to do it. And so why wouldn't we be part of that?
That's awesome. I know we appreciate you guys so much, and your passion is literally helping bring all the folks together and forming a nationwide line team. And it's something that has never happened, Mac. And you and Jimmy, you all saw the vision, you grasp it, and basically this whole culture, the electric culture of safety, it's you guys, it's all of us. And I just appreciate my dad, Walter Beer, and Joe and Denise Beer, his wife, and all the support that Beer Meters does give to this, because there's a large cost to this, and all the folks they receive these webinars 2 a month now. They receive them for no cost. You guys pay for it through your organization. You guys pay for it, and it's just amazing how we're just giving back to our industry together. That's basically what together we are changing our electric culture of safety. That's basically the motto. And man, it's neat. It's neat being part of your life, Mac, and you sharing your line legacy with me and so many people, and Jimmy and so many people. It's amazing.
Well, we're better together. We really are. And, this industry's been kind of separated all of my career. It's, factions here, there, and we got a better way of doing this or whatever.
Right.
But, when it comes to keeping people safe and getting them home every day, we all have come together. And I personally thank Beer Meters for Walter and for Joe and Ryan and for you, Brent, for, being willing to put this. As you said, there's a great cost to this. And I don't think that people out there realize the line item on Beer Meters' budget to make this happen. I know how big it is, and you've never told me, but I know, just because I've been around long enough, I know what it takes to do this. So you guys need to give yourselves a pat on the back and for keeping this going. And I sure am thankful and very honored to be part of this.
I appreciate that, Mac. Very humbling. So here we are, Mac. You said yourself that our system that we work within, our industry, our trade that we work within, man, some of the, what are 2 main things that together we do need to work on? We need to get better at 2 specific things. Tell us about those 2 things.
Well, the first thing, in 1984, Uncle Sam told us about equipotential grounding in our industry. That was 1984. And then again in, I think, 96, and then when the latest standard come out, they kept changing the language on grounding and to make it a little bit more, I guess, understandable. I don't know the method behind their madness here, but I think that between me and the folks that work with us, as we go out to clients, I'm going to say 35 to 40% pretty regularly are still doing practices like bracket grounding.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not doing equipotential grounding. We're not making sure that if something comes hot, that we're not at risk anymore. And you can't do that with the way that we've always grounded. And this is something that it's the number one thing that clients ask us for. It's the number one controversy that people talk to us about. We get phone calls and emails all the time. Well, what about this? Well, you got to do this. Well, I've been doing this for 35 years and I'm not hurt yet. And, you hear all of this, but that's the number one thing. So grounding is, it's still the issue. And as far as a technical aspect, that probably the second issue that we see problems with, that's the minimum approach distance. And we put on our gloves and we put on our sleeves when we're working distribution, and yet we're working right here. And minimum approach distance for most distribution is 2 foot 2 inches, 2 foot 4 inches, depending on your voltage. And as I stretch out my hand and I grab a hold of a tool out here, and if I took a ruler from where I'm grabbing that equipment that's energized with my hot glove back here to my chest that does not have any protection, very few people can say that that's 2 foot 4 inches. Okay, but we're working here. Now, I was taught this was the work position, and I was taught it was like this, it wasn't like this. Okay, keep that away from your body, but we've gotten, especially with the advent of bucket trucks, to where we're comfortable not working here at arm's length. We're comfortable working here about a foot away from it. We got hot gloves, we got sleeves on, but yet all of this part of our body is not protected. Yes, we have FR wire, but that's in case of an arc flash, but we're not protected from the energized parts and pieces. Now, personally, I've never seen distribution voltage jump a foot, but I've heard people and I've seen it in a lab to where it can. They put the minimum approach distance that are at 2 foot 2, 2 foot 4 for a reason, and we're constantly violating that. So that's the two big issues that I see that we're grappling with, and I don't know how much ground we're making with those two issues as far as industry wide.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think very much. And I witnessed that at the IP conference in Charleston. It was Mark Forrester came in and did a two-part session on grounding, and both parts were basically standing room only people that were in the room. And I am glad that incident prevention is starting to add some technical sessions to the safety and leadership. I'm so glad they're starting to bring the technical stuff in. I think it's actually needed. And the questions that were being asked, and I was actually, I mean, I don't want to make this a pun, but I was shocked on the statements that I was hearing with my own ears about several folks. I mean, not just one or two. I mean, like 2 handfuls of folks. They were confessing, open confessing that after Mark was sharing a certain segment and then going to another segment, it was open forum basically. And we don't do that. What are you talking about? All this time we've been doing it wrong. And it was mind boggling. I couldn't believe it.
Yep. Yeah. And we see that all the time. I did a grounding class for a company here about maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And the last guy that came in the room, he sat down in the back, and I went around, and as we was introducing each other, he came to me, he said, well, I'm so-and-so, and I'm here to prove you wrong about grounding. And he was that way. And then I told him, I says, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. All I'm asking you to do is just to listen. I says, I'm not going to tell you that you're right and I'm wrong or either way, but I just want you to listen to me. And at lunch, he came up to me and he shook my hand and he says, I'm sorry. He says, I've been doing it this way my whole career, and you've proven to me that I need to change my ways. And that's the kind of stories that we need to hear, because a lot of people are just not open to what we know now versus the way that we've been doing it. A lot of things we know better now than some of us old guys did it in the old days. But, you've got to open yourself to be able to do that. And we hear all the time, people, we ain't doing it. And I don't think we're going to do it. And I just heard from a client last week after we wrote a whole program for them and then went to implement it. And the rank and file says, no, we ain't going to change our ways no matter what you say.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
So you just brought another point that I see in the industry called, the brass, the rank and file, the white collar part of the team that, behind the scenes, basically behind their curtain, pulling the levers and the strings. I've noticed traveling and doing the training throughout the United States in many, many, many places that the rank and file, they don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be challenged with a different idea or a different method. And they don't even want to hear it sometimes. Mac?
Yeah. Well, we're linemen, electrical utility workers are proud people, and we've got good reason to be proud people.
Mm-hmm.
We do things that a vast majority of the population wouldn't even think of doing. We really do. The problem is sometimes we're so proud we can't even get out of our own way.
Mm. Wow. Or pride can actually become an attribute of complacency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. But most of us have a good intention, and like this young man that I was telling you about, he was real sorry that he had an attitude. He apologized to me for the rest of the day and all the next day, and kept apologizing to me, and we don't reach everybody the same way. Everybody has their own way of thought and what it takes to convince us to look at something different. But we got to keep trying. Lives are on the line. We're not decreasing the amount of incidents and lives that we lose here as we go forward. We're staying pretty steady, have done for a lot of years, and so we've got a long way to go.
Man. So you brought up, Matt, the minimum approach distance.
Mm-hmm.
So typically we memorize numbers depending on the potential we're working with. So we have these numbers memorized, but we've got gloves and we've got sleeves, like you've made known. But to me, those numbers, the minimum approach distance, is actually not based on numbers. But tell me if I'm right or wrong, and add to this. But it's based on attitude.
Well, I guess, there's scientific evidence behind the numbers, but,
Right.
the attitude that we have is, I've done this before and I've not gotten hurt, is something that we as individuals need to get past. Just because we didn't get hurt this time does not mean that doing it down the road sometime we're not going to get hurt. And, we was all in my original tool list when I got into this. They had this fold up wooden ruler, and you can still get them, and a lot of people still carry them. But I can remember a foreman of mine, and I was in my first year here and long before I started working stuff hot. But he did a demonstration for me one day, and he took out that wooden ruler and he put the parts together to where it got out to 2 foot 4 inches. And he put that ruler in the center of my chest. And he says, now I want you to reach to the end of this 2 foot 4 inches. And I could bend my body to where I could do it. And he says, I don't want you to ever think that you can get any closer with some unprotected part of your body than what that is. And so that's where I came up with, okay, if I got both my arms out here working, and most people I see, they're just fine with doing that. But to him, he wanted to teach me just exactly how far that was. And so then we went this overhead, because that's the way I learned to work. You know, we didn't work out of a bucket truck. We never even had one in the utility. But so we was always working overhead. But even that, you know, you've got exposed parts, but you've got a rated helmet, hard hat on. That's different than what you don't have here. But we violate that minimum approach distance so often, and we don't get hurt. So as long as we don't get hurt, why should we change?
Yeah.
Well, we should change for that one time when we will get hurt.
So this is cool. This is good discussion. I know you've seen the line worker safety tool competence training that we do, Mac, and part of that is to actually use a voltage detector or phasing meter, and either tool glove, like you were talking about, you actually have the tool in your gloved hand, or short sticking using a voltage detector or phasing meter by short sticking. So choking up on the hot stick. And then I come in with our PD25 meter that looks at voltage starting at 1 volt. And I read the voltage on the line worker's glove, on their back, and read the voltage on their boots, whether they're dielectric or not. It doesn't matter, or overshoes.
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter. And read the voltage when they're tool gloving, and then also read the difference between when they're short sticking, and also read the difference when they are back on their stick and working working a safe distance. But I tell you what, you brought up a point as far as that 2 foot 4 inches or 2 foot 2 inches. You brought up a point that I remember when I used to do that with the trailer. If I go down to, let's say, the southeast and did it like Homestead, Florida, for instance, the voltage, the potential difference on a moist day, and I'm talking like fog, or if there's little water droplets, you know, you've seen where they float, they float down just real gently. If it's a real moist day, the potential difference on my gloves and on my body, or the line worker's gloves and body, is hundreds of volts difference greater on those moist days than it is on a dry day. Hundreds of times. And so what you're talking about, as far as, well, I've always done it this way, I know stories where people do get arc flash with gloves on those moist days when they touch a component and they break through that mad, and they're like glove length away from their arms. But on those moist days, it can happen, man.
Yeah, and you get close to the coast where you got salt spray and other things that's in the air. It makes a huge difference. You know, if I go out to, say, Phoenix, Arizona, out in the middle of the desert, very seldom are you going to get that transference there through that moisture in the air, because the air is so dry. But there's only a small population in this country that lives in that dry climate. Most of our population centers live near the coast. Now, you can talk about California being a temperate climate, and it is. But, you know, here in New Jersey this morning, you know, we was out in the sleet and the rain. You know, it makes a difference. But tests have proven, you know, if we can stay that 2 foot 4 inches away, or whatever it is, depending on our voltage level, if we can keep unprotected parts of our body away, the chances are we're going to be good.
Yeah.
Period. And most of that, you know, there are extreme circumstances. You know, we did a demonstration down in the Caribbean some years ago with one of our customers, and it was one of those cloudy, misty days, and had salt spray. You know, you'd go in and your clothes would dry, and you'd have a sheen of salt on them. You could feel that crackle of the electricity in the air. It was that prominent.
Absolutely. You could feel, like you said, the crackle, and your hair stands up on those wet days, where if on a dry day it doesn't. So I mean, they're just indicators, totally.
Yep, that's right. But you know, people, we get used to doing something and we haven't gotten hurt, so we continue that unsafe behavior. We might even know it's unsafe behavior, but we haven't gotten hurt, so we're willing to take the risk. And We need to change that.
Yeah. So you gave us two technical skills that we
Mm-hmm.
need to work on: grounding and MAD. As far as, give us your top two soft skills that we need to work on.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we need to work on is attitude. Now, I'm pretty proud. I'm one that'll go down, and not so much anymore because it's been a long time since I've actually worked online. But when my kids were small and we'd be driving down the road and I'd point at something and I'd say, look at that pole. We set that pole today. That thing is straight up and down. You can put a plumb bob on that thing and it ain't leaning anyway. And look at the sag on that wire. They're all the same. Look at we're pretty proud of what we do because we do stuff that the general population wouldn't even think of doing. Okay. So we know we're in a niche thing that it's a dangerous thing, but we're very proud of things like that. We're proud that we've gone 20 years without an incident. All of this, but we let that get in the way. So our attitude is what really drives us. If we've got a poor attitude, poor things are going to happen to us. If we got a good attitude, good things are going to happen to us. If we got a can-do attitude or an attitude that no matter what I do today, I'm going to do it in the safest manner possible. Because I've gotten fired a couple of times in my career because I refused to do something because I felt it was unsafe. And that, not everybody's that way, but to me, I don't want to get hurt at all, in any way, shape, or form. That's just something I've just not wanted to even experience. So our attitude is one of those soft skills that I think that we all need to work on, even me, and I work on it every day. But sometimes I get a poor attitude once in a while too, and I have to catch myself. So that attitude is a soft skill, but the other thing that we need better communication skills. We have a tailboard where we're communicating with each other, but some of those tailboards, and when I got to where I am today, I stood into their tailboard without saying anything, and the foreman wrote the stuff down on a piece of paper, handed it around, had everybody sign it. Didn't talk about it, didn't do anything. And then after, I just kind of, okay, guys, we got to stop here because I'm going to spend the day with you, and I'm not comfortable spending the day with you unless we do this. But we see a lot of people that way. And so that starts our communication for the day is, okay, sign here. We're good to go. We need to be up there communicating with each other. We need to be, if you're on a crew, you need to be talking to each other, not about the weather and the fishing trip that you're going on this weekend and how big the buck you got last year's season. We need to talk to each other about what we're working on. We need to have that banter and that conversation going on. We need to be looking at each other and helping them see the things that they can't see. But that communication is so important, and we're not doing a very good job at it. I've seen some crews that I was pretty proud of. They just communicated with each other about everything, but most of the time, a couple of guys are up in the air doing work. They've got a groundman. Maybe he's looking, maybe he's not. Foreman's in his truck doing paperwork, and nobody's talking to each other.
Yeah, I see that a lot too, Mac. And these should be recognized as the use for stop work authority and regroup, team back up, huddle, and regroup. So to me, when we're not working together, we're not communicating. To me, that is probably one of the biggest hazards, even maybe bigger than electrocution, because when we're not communicating, that's when somebody gets through the mat. That's when somebody gets electrocuted. When we're not communicating, typically, that's truly, I believe, more the root cause. Attitude and communication, probably more the root cause in the event than the power behind the event that caused the harm.
Well, there's something, and I saw a movie lately, but we do a fair amount of incident investigations, and you always hear, well, we knew that Joe was going to get hurt. we've known that for a lot of years. And I'm going, well, what about being your brother's keeper? How come you're not watching? Well, he's a big boy. Let him take care of himself. But I saw a movie here, and I think it's called Top Gun Maverick. It's the second Top Gun movie. And in that, there's a little scene where they're teaching and talking about incidents and bad behavior and stuff like that. And I can't remember the exact verbiage. I got it written down in a book here someplace, but where he asks, what's the reason that this failed? Okay, well, and then they come up with a reason. Well, it failed because that person wasn't doing their job or whatever. Well, then the dialogue goes, well, tell a reason that the family's going to believe. You're talking to the family and try to tell them why their relative is injured or dead. What's that reason? Can you justify what you've just said? And that, in the movie, that made everybody think. Well, it really made me think too, because it goes along with the way that I see things. Because a lot of times, like it says in incident investigations, we'll go person and I hear, well, Joe, we knew he's going to get hurt one of these days. That's the wrong. We got to change our attitude. We got to be talking. We got to be helping each other. If you help Joe one day, he might realize and start talking too. And he just might be the one that saves your life one day.
Yeah, I fully agree, Mac. Man, that's really, really good. The two technical skills that we need to work on, the two soft skills, the MAD and grounding, and then the soft skills, attitude and communication. I tell you what, those four items, top four, I agree with you as far as the top four things we need to work on as a community, as an industry. And man, Mac, I really appreciate you being here, man, and sharing your Livewire story and your experiences and all the knowledge that you have is just amazing. And I would encourage the folks to reach out to you as a senior director of ISPC and get some help. It's okay. And I truly believe that you as an organization investing in a third party, think about it. A lot of our organizations, taboo, third party, bringing in an outsider. But I believe bringing in that third party is something that is actually sorely missing within our industry as well. And we got to have different eyes. We got to have different perspective. We got to be able to say, hey, this is how we've been doing it. But Mac, do you have a better idea? And reach out to these folks. Mac, what do you have any parting words for us, brother?
Hey, I don't think there's a nobler thing we can do each day and every day is to truly be our brother's keeper. We got to save a life today. We got to start with our own, because if we don't look out for ourselves, nobody else is going to. I don't care how much your wife loves you or your father or your mother, they're not with you all the time. We've got to look out for ourselves, and we've got to look out for those people around us, whether they're coworkers or acquaintances or Joe Blow on the street. Life is too important. It is just too important. And I don't think anybody wants to see anybody hurt, let alone killed. A sad story here in the last, little over a week with a young lineman losing his life, and it happens too often. So, folks, save a life today. Start with your own. Guess that's my message.
Awesome, Mac. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you coming here and contributing once more. Always contributing. Thank you so much, Mac.
Appreciate the invite here, and I'm very honored to be here today.
Well, thank you, sir. You take care, Mac, and we'll see you down the road, down the line
All right.
soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Bye.